Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Alex, and I wanted to talk about the Lakers and why I think they kind of came out as the biggest winners in free agency. After getting swept by the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals, I felt like it was pretty imperative for them to kind of keep the roster that they had while still kind of improving it in very minor ways. After they traded Westbrook and got all those key guys like D'Angelo Russell and Jared Vanderbilt, and also seeing the huge improvements in Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura, I feel like they could definitely capitalize on the success that they built even in such a short amount of time. However, people like Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, and Rui Hachimura were all free agents, and just based off the Lakers salary cap, I wasn't too sure if they were going to be able to get all of those guys back. And well, I was proven wrong, which is exactly why I'm making this video. Not only were the Lakers able to re-sign Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and D'Lo, but they also improved the roster by adding 4 other guys in Gabe Vincent, Jackson Hayes, Cam Reddish, and Taurean Prince. Now, while some people definitely make the argument that, hey, like this is kind of what the Lakers were supposed to do, so why are they, getting all this credit for doing stuff that's pretty obvious? But the reason why I'm rewarding them for probably being the biggest winners is because not every team is willing to do the most obvious things in the world, especially with the consideration of LeBron possibly leaving the Lakers after this season because he does have a player option after this season is over, and we don't really know if he's going to sign back because he's going to play with his son, and we aren't also sure if AD is going to be staying healthy or even staying on the team if LeBron does leave. It's really important that the Lakers need to just kind of go all in at this point. And I feel like they did that. So in this video, I wanted to talk about each individual player that they were able to re-sign and what they can bring to this Lakers team, and why I kind of think this Lakers team, as currently constructed with a training camp and just more time to build and mold, I really do think the Lakers could very well make it to the finals. Before we start though, if you do end up enjoying this video, make sure to like and sub. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year, so it means a lot. Anyways, let's get started. So first, I wanted to talk about Austin Reeves because what he really did towards the tail end of the season, once he started getting some more playing time and even going into the playoffs, I really think getting Austin Reeves for almost $14 million a year is an absolute bargain. What Austin Reeves can bring just as a creator, I think is super important, especially when you take into consideration that D'Angelo Russell, another guy that they re-signed, is kind of inconsistent, especially in the playoffs, and Austin Reeves was pretty much their 3rd best player for a majority of the playoff run. And with him also still being fairly young as well, at the age of like 25 or 26, I would not be surprised if he continues to get better. I don't know how better he can get, at least as a defender, just because of his size, but I think just offensively, I think he could become a way better shot creator. I think his playmaking as well could also improve, but I don't really think he needs to, drastically improve these things, because I mean, the Lakers have LeBron, so if you have LeBron as your main playmaker, I don't really think you need Austin Reeves to even get close to that. You just need him to kind of keep doing what he was doing in the playoffs, and I really do think he can do that. Next up, we have Rui Hachimura, and although I do think his contract might be a little bit of an overpay, just by like a couple million, I still think this is a relatively good contract. He's going to be getting paid probably about $17 million a year. And again, from what we saw from him in the playoffs, it was fantastic. For most of his career, he's been a pretty low percentage 3-point shooter, somewhere in the low 30s. But he really shot the ball incredibly well. You guys can see the stats right here. And while I don't know if that's going to continue to happen just because it is so different from what he has been doing his entire career, you definitely just saw more confidence in his own game. And I think that in its own is going to translate into next season, especially training with Phil Handy. And I think they've built a pretty strong connection together. And I think, again, that is kind of where Rui Hachimura's confidence comes from. Just the way he attacks defenses, especially into mid-range shots, being able to put the ball on the floor and take a pull-up shot. I think that's so important for the Lakers. Again, LeBron is just getting older. He will probably be missing a significant amount of games. AD could definitely get injured at any point as well. So being able to have guys like Rui Hachimura be able to take over games sometimes can definitely help just kind of lessen the load on your star players. And again, that also applies to Austin Reeves as well. Also, just having a big body in general, I think really helps the Lakers as well. Just all their success since LeBron has been on the Lakers has been through their defense. And while I don't think Rui is a transformative defensive player, I just think his body type, and I think he is, just an average defender. I think that's good enough for the Lakers to have one of the better defenses. And you still have Jared Vanderbilt as well, alongside Anthony Davis. That's kind of like your bigs on the team. So I think that alone can build a really good, solid foundation for this Lakers defense. And again, that's what wins them games, in my opinion. And now we got D'Angelo Russell, another guy they were able to re-sign back, and he's going to be going for about $18 million. And while I think that also might be a little bit of an overpay, I do think it is a very tradable contract. And while some people may have their questions about what D'Lo can do in the playoffs, there's no doubt that if he wasn't there on the team last year, I just don't know if they would have been able to go as far into the playoffs as they did. I know D'Lo sucked in the Denver series, but he had moments in that Grizzlies series that really pushed them over the edge. And again, without D'Lo, who knows where they would have gone, throughout the playoffs. They might not have even made it to the conference finals. But with that being said, I still think D'Lo is going to help the Lakers, especially as just a shot creator. Again, that's not really something that they have a lot of on the team. I think Austin Reeves is that, LeBron and AD, of course, but having D'Lo as a fourth kind of option for scoring, I think is going to be great for the Lakers. While he is inconsistent, again, like if he's a fourth option, we don't need him to be an all-star caliber player. We just need him to be there in moments, and I definitely think he can do that, at least in the regular season. And as it gets through on the playoffs, it does get a little bit harder, but by the time we get to the playoffs, like they're going to be leaning more into LeBron, AD, Austin Reeves, even Rui Hachimura to a certain extent. So D'Lo being the fifth best player and not really showing up, not that big of a deal. And now to talk about the new guys, just to go quickly on Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes. I don't really know how much playing time or even how much impact they are going to give to this Lakers team. Cam Reddish has shown to be a good three-point shooter and also defender, but in my opinion, I also don't think he's really gotten a fair share of playing time on each respective team that he's been on. So depending on what playing time he gets with the Lakers, I definitely think he can help this team. In my opinion, as long as he's better than Troy Brown Jr., is definitely an upgrade to the roster. I think he is already a better three-point shooter and defender, so he should be able to take over Troy Brown Jr.'s spot. And with Jackson Hayes as well, it's kind of the same sort of thing. I think he will be better than Wayne Gabriel, but other than just being very uberly athletic and big and tall, I don't really think Jackson Hayes is all too great of an NBA player. Next up, let's talk about Gabe Vincent, because I think he actually does somewhat have a chance in possibly stealing the starting point guard spot from D'Lo. In the playoffs, this guy was on an absolute tear, in some series averaging 17 points per game. He is by far, in my opinion, a upgrade from Dennis Schroeder, and while he's not the defensive player that Dennis Schroeder was, he is by far and away a better offensive player, at least as a three-point shooter. And when you're on a team with LeBron James, you gotta be a good three-point shooter. So I think Gabe Vincent is really going to be great for them. And even though I don't think he is as good of a defender as Dennis Schroeder, that's not to say that I think he's a bum on that side of the floor. He definitely does put some great defensive effort. And even if he's coming off the bench, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal because he's going to be going against backup guards. And the reason why I think he could potentially steal the starting point guard spot from D'Lo is, again, I think he just is in general more consistent than D'Lo. So when we do get to the playoffs, if D'Lo starts kind of falling off a cliff, I think you can put Gabe Vincent onto the court, and I think he could definitely provide some stability in terms of at least just scoring the ball. Obviously, D'Lo is a good shot creator, and Gabe Vincent, LeBron will definitely have to be doing some more creation and playmaking to get Gabe Vincent some good looks. And lastly, to talk about Taurean Prince, this is a very underrated signing in my opinion. They got him for a very cheap deal, and again, he is a pretty good three-point shooter, 37-38% for his career, and I also do think he is a pretty solid defender. One question I do have with Taurean Prince though is sometimes he can get kind of crazy and try to create his own shot, but I think, again, coming off the bench with not too many minutes, but I do think he will get some decent run. I think that will limit kind of the craziness that he can bring, but I would just say in general he is a positive role player on this team. and I do think he can bring a lot of versatility, especially in their lineups, being able to play the 3 or the 4, and then again being able to defend at a pretty high level on most forwards as well. I think again the Lakers' defensive identity is a huge reason for them winning games, and I think Taurean Prince can add to that. So with all that being said, with all these new pieces on top of kind of the current players like LeBron and AD still staying there, how do I think the Lakers are going to stack up in the Western Conference and just in the league in general? Well, they obviously made the Western Conference Finals with little time, so I think at bare minimum they have to make the conference finals again. They're going to get a lot of time to play with each other now that they not only have a training camp but also a whole regular season to go through and gain chemistry. I think that's going to help them a lot. My main question is, are they better than the Denver Nuggets? And I think that is a little bit questionable. Now, I'm not saying it's questionable as like, I don't really think they can beat the Nuggets. I've definitely had some negative thoughts on the Nuggets offseason as a Nuggets fan. I think the Nuggets are really going to have to rely more on their young bench, not only now that Bruce Brown is gone, but also Jeff Green. I think those are two huge key pieces to that championship team that are now gone, and they're really going to have to rely on more of the Peyton Watsons and then their 3 new draft picks with Strother, Pickett, and Tyson. I think that will definitely kind of halter their success. Of course, they still have Christian Brown, and they also just have probably the best starting 5 in the league. I think that on its own will definitely put them up there with one of the best Western Conference teams. But with just the way the Lakers have kind of ran their offseason, not only keeping the roster the same, but also just improving it very slightly, I definitely think the gap between the Lakers and the Nuggets, it was probably like about here. It's definitely a lot closer, so it's kind of hard to say. We'll have to see what the Nuggets do. They could look potentially different throughout the season, and maybe LeBron just looks so washed at this point. So I think the gap has definitely closed, and because the gap is closed, that's kind of why I would not be surprised to see the Lakers possibly winning it all, or at least just making it to the finals next season. This team just stayed the same. I think it improved in certain positions, and on top of that, a lot of the young guys that they did re-sign, I think also have room to improve. And again, I think that just raises the ceiling for the Lakers' success. But hey, those are my thoughts on the Lakers and why I kind of think they won the offseason. Let me know down below what y'all think. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and sub. Again, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year, so it means a lot. Check out my socials down below in the description. You can also check out this video somewhere on the screen where I graded every single free agency signing. I go more in depth on the Lakers signings that they had in free agency, so if you're interested in that, check it out. Anyways, I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.